late 80s, early 90s, you had a big-time rival with another driver. Who was that with?
Probably Brett.
Yeah.
I didn't want to say his name, but I guess you forced me into it.
The 1990s is often referred to as the decade of peace and prosperity. The internet brought about a new era of communication, business, and entertainment. Pop culture was evolving from the creation of hip-hop to American sitcoms, building new forms of tradition into everyday life. In Middletown, New York, the 70-year-old tradition of racing on the hard clay continued to grow. Racing wasn't the only tradition within the fairground walls.
Gerdas have meant everything to Orange County. I mean, the fact that they've kept their interest in racing, kept their interest in keeping the place open, not selling it off to developers and things like that.
The Gerda family to Orange County is Orange County, really. You know, as long as I've known them, I believe he's on the track. Mike has, I thought, done a phenomenal job maintaining it and keeping it going.
They had to do what they had to do to make this place survive.
Before Bob Maxwell came in, the concession was called Reed's. And I got talking to Robbie Maxwell about it.
My father purchased the Reed family's main restaurant, which is our main restaurant here today. And that's when they started. And since that day, we've had the main concessions here at Orange County Speedway.
They look forward to taking that 30th lap, and this is the 31st lap, and this is where they come. And we love it.
The 31st lap is a place that everybody gathers. Certainly after the races, you're coming down and certain people have a couple drinks and hang out, and it's nice to debrief a little bit about what happened that night.
During and after the races is always exciting, and there's never a dull moment.
It's a gathering place and somewhere to go after the races to chit-chat and argue about something or whatever, you know.
And the fans, they get to see their drivers, they get to talk about, you know, what happened on the track, and a lot of stories here.
You know, you have a bad night and your night ends early. There's always some place to go and grab a drink at the 31st lap and drown your sorrows, or go after the race and celebrate.
The 31st lap has yielded many experiences and memories to the OCFS family, but times weren't always so easy.
In the probably late 90s, early 2000s, you know, it was tough here. It was tough to get the crowd. We had to tread water. We had to do what we had to do to survive.
I knew we had to do something with competition, and the one that was a standout up in upstate New York, Danny Johnson.
There was one guy that gave me fits sometimes, and that was Danny Johnson.
Is that Danny Johnson back there? It is, the Dr. Danny Johnson.
Truck to the inside and said, "Good night."
When I was a kid, just grasping the concepts of dirt modified racing, I would always just read them in the dirt track and program and read up on how the doctor did and how Brett was doing.
He was probably like the only one that really stood in my way at that and through that period.
Danny and Brett, no matter where they went, they would fight.
You know, Brett would go into the small block race, and it would be Danny and him fighting. One of the two usually won.
I figured this was the perfect opportunity to put this package together, and I knew Brett had just moved out of his one ride.
When I left the team, they weren't too happy about it. My brother basically left Freightliner, and Danny took Brett's ride.
Created almost an instant rivalry.
These guys have been bad blood between these two since Danny came down here to race in Orange County, which has been Brett's playground for years.
Every time these two guys get together for some fireworks, they're both fiery competitors. He's won a big block race here, at least one every season now for 20 years.
The crowd on their feet and screaming as Danny does last to first in a car he's never driven before.
Danny can do things with a car that just sometimes you shake your head in amazement.
He's always had a natural ability to take cars that might not be perfect and win races.
He was the wild child that just wanted to win.
Danny Johnson was a little more wild and on the outside, and Brett was very consistent.
A lot of us, we took it with a grain of salt and was just a big party. He
made it his job.
Brett Hearn's about winning. Brett drives the car, he's the best in the business.
Every week, those are the two guys coming to the front. Whoever got there first usually was the one that was going to win.
They would both be dicing through the field, and then they'd be, going tit for tat, and it was unbelievable to watch.
It was a dogfight every time.
It was probably the best racing probably ever.
There was no question. For a period of years there, it was the Danny and Brett show.
Danny eases it in on the bottom. Hearn stays with them step for step on the outside. They come off turn number 4. Danny drifts up just enough to pinch off Hearn. He's in the lead.
There was one time when I was pretty close to winning as many times as Brett did, and I wanted to try and get ahead of him.
Danny Johnson in the number 6 and Brett Hearn in the number 3. As Brett Hearn down low, can he get him? The answer is no.
He had everything given to him with pole positions and up front starting spots and stuff like that, so that was always tough to beat him because of that.
Now, if you think with Hearn on the pole that he just mailed it in and won this one easy, forget about it. There's a major story in the back of the field whose name happens to be Danny Johnson.
We've gone head-to-head numerous times and for many championships and a lot of close races. And some of the people say that they were some of the best races they've ever seen.
Watch this. Sailing through the picture comes Brett Hearn, the New Jersey driver.
In the driver's seat, winning is everything. But close races often lead to close calls.
Hearn has been taken to Halifax Hospital.
If there were absolutely no danger, what would be the point of doing it? And the second aspect of that is if there were absolutely no danger, what do you think all those fans come out for?
One guy would be just taking on fuel, the other guy's changing tires, one guy's pitting out in the middle of the pit lane, cars are driving by. It probably really wasn't really totally safe.
Trouble, trouble, trouble! Red lights will come on!
If they can see an opening, they don't care. They're going to get there. This animosity goes way, way back.
Sometimes you can't see. It's scary. You just deal with it. You concentrate as hard as you can.
As fast as things happen, you could be instantly taken out of it. Before you even know what's going on, it's over.
Suddenly, on the third turn, he seems to lose control of the car and plows into the concrete wall at 80 miles an hour.
I crashed in turn 3 and didn't wake up till 75 laps later.
You try to be respectful to everybody around you. It's a dangerous sport, and nobody wants to get hurt, and I don't want to hurt anybody, certainly, so.
I've had some pretty violent race accidents, and quite a few of them I didn't remember for a couple days, but it's always in the back of your mind when you get out of the car. Once I always got in the car, I was fearless.
Fearless, determined, and fiery. It takes a certain kind of person to want to get behind the wheel.
That's the great thing about driving a race car. You can't describe it.
Well, first of all, there's only room for one person.
You start the engine up, and it really rattles it around a little bit.
You sit with your legs straddled over the top of the transmission.
You hear the engine, you drive a lot off of what the motor sound is.
His concentration is so extreme.
To me, it's all about winning. I'm going to try to pass that guy leading the race.
You hit that gas, and you give her hell for as long as you can, as fast as you can.
But just as we find in life, we find in racing. The greater the risk, the greater the reward.
What some fans don't realize is the work that goes on behind the scenes.
These days, the details of the preparation are just crazy.
It's a crazy amount of work and commitment.
6 days a week, we're in a shop for hours and hours.
Definitely gets frustrated.
It basically rules your life.
It's just raw, it's raw racing.
Here I am 78 years old, I probably shouldn't be racing, but I still enjoy it.
It's just different than any other sport.
In a decade loaded with quality racing and thrilling rivalry, the millennium brings uncertainty to a sport competing within the information age. A test for the next generation of dirt racing.